Welcome, everyone. This is Pilot Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at lasers and LOTRO, and here at LOTRO Players. And this night, I am joined by Krister.
Hello.
Hello there, Krister. Have you been having fun with the latest update?
Well, let's just say I've been in this strange place called Shanty Time.
Okay, we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, later on in the episode. So
Oh, you just wait.
Okay, let's head into the game news then, and we'll begin with an update that we had, update 37.2.1, which was released on Wednesday, October 11th, where they're, of course, making little tweaks to 37.2. So let's start with what tweaks they made to the Mariner, which were the bulk of the changes. First off, the French version of the Mariner class movie will now play properly. Next, Mariner travel skills can no longer be used prior to completing the introduction. Oh my! That would have been a problem.
Yeah, I guess so, yes.
I said, why is my level 1 character suddenly in Thar? Okay, I think you have to be level 7 to have it, but yes, you can hit level 7 inside the intro, so I could understand why that could be a potential problem, yes. Lightning Flèche now benefits from AoE damage bonuses, not bleed damage bonuses. Shanty heals correctly apply only once per use, not multiplying for each nearby ally. Sail to Tharbad no longer suggests that it takes you to Sarn Ford. Low-level haversacks correctly... Yes.
My apologies. I'm just thinking about where'd you go? Where'd you end up going?
Well, no, what happened is that the skill used to be called Travel to Sarn Ford, or Sail to Sarn Ford, and it took you to Tharbad. So the skill always took you to Tharbad. It just had the wrong name before the update.
That's awesome.
Yes.
You guys said you were taking us over there. We lied. We're mariners.
Oh, well. Low-level haversacks correctly equip into the class item slot and no longer equip into the range slot. Thank you! Because it was annoying that I had this empty class slot and that I had to choose between an instrument or a haversack to put into the other one.
Yeah.
The Moria medium armor trader barter list for Burglar has been renamed to Burglar and Mariner armor sets. The medium armor trader at skirmish camps will now properly upgrade Erebor Mariner's armor to Greater Erebor Mariner's armor. The recipe for Mariner's abyssal helms has been added to the Gorgoroth instance barter vendor. Mariners now correctly receive class-appropriate gear from Hidden Horde chests. Of course, the old joke there is, what about the other classes, right?
Yeah. I seem to remember acquiring a ton of Warden gear out of those runs. So,
Warden, on what class were you playing?
A captain.
A captain?
Yeah, that was our running joke, is that we never had a Warden with us, and then everybody would get Warden gear. It's like, you know what? We had a Warden with us. They'd have like a triple of every possible wonderful piece of equipment for every single location.
Yeah, but because I can understand it possibly that burglars or hunters running into that problem, but a captain, because captains use heavy armor.
We do use heavy armor, but we don't. We're not in the same. We're not looking for the same stats that a Warden's looking for necessarily.
Okay. Well, you might really be disconcerted when the stat changes come along with update 38.
Oh, I probably will be. Yes, I imagine.
Yes, all right.
So you got to look at me so I'm like the mountain. I'm just this immovable object that just sits there and swings my sword, and then a Warden's more like a dancing, drifting kind of drifter type of dancer. that doesn't really, they're not really effective, but we keep them around.
Out of curiosity, did I ever bring my warden to any raid that I attended for
You
ploy?
did, but it was never you never brought your warden to those raids. We just it was so funny how we just never we get all this like warden oriented gear dropping, and it was nothing. Nobody was a warden, so it's like, does anybody have a friend of a friend of a friend that maybe can use this? Or
Yes. Oh yes, the Mariners now correctly received class. Right, we already talked about that. Then Mariner Hinhorde cloaks are now listed on the medium cloak exchange barter list. On Guard's description now states that it requires steady balance rather than trying to display the minimum and maximum required pips, because that was really annoying when it attempted to do that. Belly of Brine no longer suggests that it has a bonus effect when rare herbs is not actively traded. Beneficial targeted range skills such as Toss the Bottle or the South Wind now correctly benefit from the healing range extension tracery rather than the damaging range extension tracery. Draining Strike will now improve or refresh the enervating counter debuff as expected. An issue with the High Elf Mariner facial animations during combat has been corrected.
oh, I wish we could have understood what that was, because I wonder what they were doing.
Yeah, because someone was complaining that there was still a facial animation issue, but then a dev posted that, oh no, we fixed it. The one that we're talking about was really horrific or something like
Oh,
that. So what?
I love those moments. I just love those moments, Pine, where you're playing along, you're playing your character. You've been playing maybe for an hour or so, and then you like sweep around with your camera to the front, and you notice that your face is set like this horror thing where you're gasping all the time, and you look like an idiot, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, how long have I been looking like that?" So, I'd love to understand if it was horrific. That's even.
Yes,
I wish I
I,
could have
I
seen the expression.
I'm just thinking that someone accidentally typed in /mood horrified.
Right. Yeah, that'd be the first thing I would check by default, is that maybe I inadvertently remooted myself. But
Mariner raid gear has been added to barter vendors in the following camps: Rift, 21st Hall, Karis Galathan, Edmund Bloom, Enid Wythe, Oxclan Merchant Camp, and Galtrev. As for other class updates, the Orning skill Hearten, when traded in the hide, now advances class deeds properly. As for miscellaneous items, the Swashbuckle emote will now correctly play on elf characters. The following racial trait granting deeds will now complete properly, even if your race change after completing the relevant deed requirements: Friend of the Forsaken, Back in There Again, Guest of Thorns Hall, and Friend of the Galathrine. And there is a known issue that most Mariner set gear now has appropriate set bonuses. The few remaining will be addressed in a future update. So they're still yet taking care of Mariner gear, and that's probably going to take a few updates before everything is there. But anyway, those are the updates for update 37.2.1.
not too bad. Not too bad.
Not too bad. I mean, usual thing you have after adding a new class and the like. Now, they did note that they are planning on having a Bullroarer build next week, be the first build for update 38, where we hope to have our first look at the new landscape for the Corsairs of Umbar update. So that means we can see for ourselves, look at the wonderful world that we are heading into, and probably get smashed in the face by a bunch of Corsairs.
We need to build the equivalent of a war steed with a boat. We need to have a legendary boat we sail around and ram
Well,
things with.
they did say that they had been discussing when they were planning if there was a possibility of having some sort of boat travel for players. In other words, player controlled boat travel. And they decided no, it just did not make the cut for being in there. They just didn't have the time or resources in order to do something like that.
Yeah, I'd assume that would be a huge change. So
Yeah, so they brought up the question, but it did not go far enough to actually attempt to do it. Also, the Harvest Mats Festival has returned and is on until November 1st, meaning until the well, assuming that Update 38 gets released as scheduled, that means it'll be running until the new release is pretty much it. And they also had a note about fellowship maneuvers. And according to Ahmad Mahal, fellowship maneuvers have not meaningfully changed, but their potency was adjusted during the stat crunch. Before the crunch, they did not scale in potency to player damage, so their usefulness fell off quite rapidly after low levels. Now their potency more or less follows player potency. They're still not going to deal more damage or healing than well-geared players is capable of by the use of fellowship duration, maneuver duration, to use of their own skills, but the fellowship maneuvers themselves should no longer be a mere tickle for your enemies when used at high levels.
that almost feels like that scene in Indiana Jones where the guy gets his sword out and flashes it all around, and then Indiana Jones just shoots him. But so maybe that was what our maneuvers were meant to be, to show us. They're like, "Ooh, you guys are coordinated. Oh my goodness, you work well as a team. Kill them." But we've been lamenting about that forever because, of course, you think about one of the pinnacles of having to understand the fellowship maneuvers and having to use them correctly was Dragok, and that was a lot of fun to actually get to the point where you were competent in the in running those fellowship maneuvers because you had to be. And so I don't know. It was fun. That'd be fun to see that coming back or being more relevant going forward because that was always an extra little bit of training, orientation, and challenge to put in there. So when you had to do fellowship maneuvers to complete something. So
now I do notice that over on the Friday Night Fight, we do have a tendency to attempt to use them more than most other groups, and that was even before the stat crunch when fellowship maneuvers were at their worst.
yeah, are you guys running with a burglar? Because usually when we have our burglar in our group, that's when we're seeing the fellowship maneuvers coming up more frequently. So.
Well, I mean just the regular random ones that occasionally happen when anyone's up. Yeah, so no, we have not had them come up in burglar frequency because I don't think we have a burglar in any of the groups I've run in recently.
Well, that's good. They steal your lunch, so it's better not to have one in the group.
And Cordovan has announced that is starting the annual Extra Life fundraiser for the year. This is, of course, Extra Life, Team Standing Stone Games, and you, and they give the list of the usual pitch on if you want to donate to the Team Standing Stone Games. They provide the money for the Boston Children's. Oh yeah, Boston Children's Hospital is their usual target for their donations in there, where they're trying to hoping to get a total of $30,000 for them. And there are, in the show notes, we have a link to a list in there. They're talking about the group incentives that they have this year on what they'll do, and that there's a possibility of having drawings for each of these areas and there are ones at 10,000, 20,000, and 30,000 on there. And if they hit 30,000, they will be giving away an ultimate edition of the Corsairs of Umbar to 3 people who have donated at least $10. So, talking about that. They're also talking about community lists. You could get things like in-game titles, pets, musical instruments, and mounts. And so all that information is inside of the forum post posted by Cordovan. This is an annual event that we have on October. It's that time of year again. And that's it for our news this week. So let's head to our store sales. Krister, what's on sale this week?
Well, of course, it's a terrifying aspect of the game that I'm still trying to master. I remember spending hours and hours and sweating and crying, and then finally I got my legendaries updated with all the new system with all the traceries and everything. But now we're going to have to deal with that again because of the level cap increase, right? So the store sales are oriented around legendary item tracery leveling and then slotting, and it's 50% off in game now. Mithril cost reductions continue until 12 p.m. Eastern on October 16th. Stand out from the crowd. I already do. Thank you very much. Get 20% off select shared wardrobe, select cosmetic outfit slots, mounted combat trait specs, select cosmetics, and that is through October 19th. And then our weekly coupon is for a run speed boost ×5, and the coupon code is speed boost, all one word, and that again is through October 19th.
Whee! Oh, that's the combat speed boost, the one that no one uses.
Yeah, I have a lot of them. I've used them every once in a while, but that's because when I accidentally clicked on it because it was next to something I was trying to click on.
There is that. Well, I guess because on the Mariner, where you have your on guard position skill is actually a small speed boost. And I think I've used that combat speed boost more than any other combat speed boost of any type in the game.
But still, that's through your character class.
Yeah, that's my character. It's not right. It's not by doing a clicky or anything.
Yeah, because like with the Warden, you put Force March on.
Yeah, but that's not combat skill. That's not a combat speed.
True, that's true.
Now I believe Ambush, though, might still give you a speed. With Warden, I think Ambush gives you a speed boost. I know it used to. I don't. And what it does, once you ambush them, you get a speed boost so you could run up to the target and get to them quickly. So you could attack them while they're down. Alright. This week, we have another reminiscing. And that's thinking that we could reminisce about first stats on a character. In other words, you have this bright, new, shiny character in there, and are there any memorable first deaths that you have for a character? Right? Now, I don't care whether this happened at level 1 or if it happened at level 100. It's just that the first death of that particular character for some reason was memorable.
I'm trying to. So it wasn't. So I have to tell them because when I read that, I instantly thought of a scenario, but it wasn't a first death, but it was by far the most humiliating death my captain ever had, and it was public. And so we had in the kin during the golden age when our kin was very, very active. We had a new group of low levels in our kin, and so being the fancy, big, high levels that we were, I think the level cap was 85 at that point. So rolling with our level 85s, we go into this. Where the heck were we? I cannot remember the instance for the life of me. It was like this. It was like a mausoleum, and you cross this really long bridge to get into it. And so, of course, with the high levels coming in, we were like 40, 50 levels higher than the mobs. You know, it was going to be this cakewalk. So my arrogant, stupid captain is running across this little tiny bridge, and here's this low-level little zombie dude there in the middle of the bridge, and I go up to attack him, and I'm like, ha ha! And the first thing he does is he does this knockback, and he knocks me off the bridge, and I die horribly in front of everybody. It was, it was the most anticlimactic moment my character ever had. It was like, oh, get out of my way, zombie! Ah! How? You know, so that was the death I remember the most. That's the. I was trying to think. You know, with Krister, he was able to stay alive for a long time. So I think his very first memorable death. I can't remember now. I can't remember if there was a place where we could fall into the waterworks and die in the drop. Was that when you? Because I think you just jump it and hit the water, but you live in the when you go through the well, right?
No, if you go to the well, 95% of the time you're going to die.
Okay, that's what it was then. It was just going through the well and going through the water. You're like, oh wow, that's so good.
Yes. And I know that's Sans's favorite way to get down into the waterworks is to jump down the well.
It is pretty fun.
Yeah, and it conveniently drops you into the stone circle, right?
Yeah, you're very close. You're very close at that point. You have to go up a flight of stairs here. You're at the place where you'd want to be, anyways.
Right. Now, the reason why I brought this particular one up was because today, while playing my Mariner, I was level 64. So I'm level 64, and I'm down Merc. I managed to get to level 64 without dying yet. All right, that's all nice and good. And I was running the quest Memories of Mithrandir. So you remember that one, right?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So you've got to get to this cave in the Ashen Slades. So I headed out that way, and I did my usual thing. And what I normally do is I avoid fighting all the mobs that you have to go through in order to get through there. And instead, I slip down the cliff and where I land next to the cave mouth. That's what I've been doing for 100 times for all these years. But for some reason, I got a little disoriented and I wound up slipping down the wrong point. So therefore, my first defeat on this character that I have was dying next to the cave mouth in the Ashen Slades, trying to get down to the cave for there. So that meant that I wound up being put into the stone circle that's way, way back on the other side of the Ashen Slades. So I had to get out of there. Then I had to go all the way through across the Ashen Slades, which of course is filled with mobs. So in order to avoid fighting a few mobs, I had to go all the way there, fight all the mobs on the Ashen Slades. And once I got through them, of course, I got to the point where I would have been if I took the way down that went through the mob. So I didn't save myself anything at all on there. Then I finally got to the cave. I went in and I did the instance as usual in there. And everything started out nice and normal. Then I got to the one where you have those 3 goblins. And somehow, I don't know what in the world happened, but somehow I was suddenly defeated. I said, what? Those are the easiest mobs in this instance! What happened? I have absolutely no idea what happened there. I mean, one of those goblins apparently did have a reflect, but that reflect was not big enough in order to one-shot me or anything like that. So obviously I was not paying attention to my morale there. Now, of course, when I came in, going all the way through across the Ashen Slades again, of course, got in there to run it again. This time when I got to the goblins, I set up everything and I blasted them to pieces, and they didn't have time to even touch me before they were all dead. Revenge. And that's what I had on there. But anyway, it made me think about what could be potentially be some interesting first deaths to it. So yes, you
just pointed out another fun death, which is the inexplicable death, where you're fighting with your confidence. You're like, la la, la wait, but I just died. What? I should have lasted another 45 seconds. What just happened? I bet you those. Yeah, of course. What's hysterical is you had to. There was just like Lancelot and the Holy Grail. Just you come across the field like 20 times.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. So yes, that was the strangest running of Memories of Mithrandir I've ever had because of that. And then let's go into our week in gaming. Krister, what were you up to?
Well, it was a pretty shocking Friday night, as we did have to, for the first time, include a Mariner in our ranks as we ventured into the Vermin we did our Vermin and Delving runs, and the Mariner, we were quite, I'm not concerned, but the Mariner feels like they're elbowing in on a lot of other people's territory, and so I felt like it wasn't that bad last night. So I made a promise to the Mariner that captains will never be Shanti-quated. So I'm going to trademark that saying.
They'll never be Shanti-quated.
That's right, the shanties. But what was hysterical is now we have our dwarven healer. I don't know what Finn plays, but I think it's like a combination of the bagpipes and the Zuzu. What is those? Zuzu Velas or Vuvuzelas? Those annoying horns that they whip out at the soccer. And so he's sitting there tooting his. Now we've got the shanties going too. And one of the other characters was like, "Huh, there's a lot of music and shouting happening in this group." And I'm trying to think of, would the minstrel and Mariner's music, would it even be compatible? Or are we all having to endure this horrific performance, while we're adventuring? But yeah, so it was fun seeing the Mariner in action. It felt like it was a pretty good fit, and we got through everything relatively straightforwardly last night. So that was a lot of fun. And then other than that, this last week, we had our big with ESO. We had our big adventure that we did last weekend, which was a lot of fun, where we got everybody together and we did some of the event stuff. And then I had my crowning moment in my cosmetics in ESO, where I have a suit of armor that's this dark jester armor, I believe. And so they have a shield that has a skull flanked by two jester heads. And now I have a helmet that's a skull, and the shoulder pads are two jester heads. So now my skull and jester head armor matches the skull and jester heads that are on the shield. It is such a stupendous. I put a picture in our show only, by the way, Pineleaf, so you could review the amazingness. But I believe that this was so powerful that even though I can't explain it, I can't justify this explanation. I can say with confidence that when I logged in with this outfit, everybody within 100 feet of me just logged off right there. Boom. I think I probably had about 20 or 30 people just delete their tunes, just out of respect for how amazing this outfit.
Scared.
That's what I remember when we were together for adventure. Of course, I was dressed like this stupendous, horrific, Death Knight, and you just made this offhand comment. You're like, well, and Chris was trying to look intimidating. I was like, I'm not trying. I think I do look intimidating. but that was a lot of fun. ESO's been a lot of fun, and then in Starfield, I've been kind of getting into the ship design, but it's been frustrating because you have to have the ship be flyable in some way before you save it. So I've got to a point where I've just gotten bored of shipbuilding and I just want to save what I got, but I can't, so I just give up and delete the whole thing. so that's pretty much been my week. What's your week been like?
All right. I will begin with my Mariner, where I built a ship and then sailed it on the Mirror. And of course, I also managed to open up all of the skirmishes since I was in Mirkwood. So I went to Mirkwood. So I've unlocked all the Mirkwood skirmishes. I did already all the Moria skirmishes. And just before this episode, I managed to unlock the Rift skirmish. So I have all the skirmishes now unlocked. So I guess it's
Raka?
So I guess it's time for me to see how long it takes me to get Skirmisher Middle Earth. And then on Friday Night Fights, our group ran The Stairs and Dananglore. So that went reasonably well, I think. You know, usual problems with the second boss, who we call Mr. Random because he keeps on. Some days he is just as gentle as a lamb, and sometimes he one-shots everybody. Never know what mood he's in that day. And then for the field trip, we decided to create a group of mariners. So we are then descending upon Mossward like a ship's crew on shore leave. So we all descended upon them and are now working on there. Now, some of our members of the group decided, hey, let's try the landscape difficulty. And all right, I initially said, all right, fine. I'm not exactly fond of the landscape difficulty system in there. And we started on there. As soon as we hit level 10, then the explosions began. And I was reminded about every single reason why I decided that I disliked the difficulty system. And it was indeed as bad as I remembered it from the one time I tried it back on Treebeard, I think it was. So yes, at the end of the session, I turned that back off and set to normal difficulty because I don't feel like going through that. And if that thing has explosions in it, even if you're in normal difficulty, then I'm not too sure what I'm going to be doing. Because I just don't like how every once in a while, red box all around, run away, boo! That's what I always felt like in there. And yeah,
I was going to say that's a pretty good reflection of artillery, though, right? So
that's what I felt like. I feel like that what's happening is that Sauron is in the background shooting mortar shells into the middle of the place of whatever person you're fighting. Because that's what happens every once in a while. Is it looks like there's a mortar blast? Yes. Moria's mortars.
Mordor's mortars.
Mordor's. Oh yeah, you're right. Mordor's, not Moria's. Yes. Mordor's mortars. Yes. Now, to avoid saying that any more times, we will. Yes, if you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@luchaplayers.com. And if you'd like to hear us recording live, we record each Saturday evening at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. You can listen to us at luchaplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight, then. This is Pontinos reminding you to skirmish responsibly.